single window pane. And because of the regular bombings and whatever, so everyone just said, what's the point of putting up a window pane? Because it's broken the next day, then you put it up and then it's gone the other day. So people just stuck plastic into their window frames. And that plastic, I realized, was quite essential, because you get this wind and dust, and if you don't have it, it can really irritate and bother you. But excuse me, one of the let me show this. Sorry about that. But when I look back on what I covered, I could never imagine that the Northern Alliance forces would defeat the Taliban as quickly as they did. The Northern Alliance then controlled about 5% or 6% of the country, in a tiny sliver in the northeast. And my principal responsibility was to see how Washington was working with the Northern Alliance, and they started with air support and bombings, and I had to sort of forge alliances. It was very hard. It was very dangerous. But I met a Northern Alliance general who, the first thing when he saw me, spoke a few Bollywood lines. And he invited me to dinner that night and completely broke down and cried like a baby when he described his first experience of, quote, bunking school and heading to the cinema to see an Indian Bollywood film. And he spoke with such reverence and such love for Indian cinema that I had to pretend to be a good Bollywood buff, even though I wasn't. But it was my ticket to safety. And I realized soon that one of the things that you had to do in Afghanistan was talk Bollywood. Fast forward now to 10 years later. Yes, some surprises that the situation is as is. It's a very challenging situation. The situation, as you know, if you picked up the New York Times today, and I have this tendency still to gravitate towards Afghan news, but today, where we had 15 Pakistani soldiers who were held in custody by the Taliban, and then their bodies were found riddled with bullet holes. So in one sense, what the news report seemed to indicate was they were executed. For any professional army, when your soldiers have been captured, that is very hard to take. It continues to show some of the challenges in the region. The region is also challenged because of other geostrategic considerations, as it was 10 years ago. What's similar now is that over the next 3-4 years, it'll still be very challenging, because in Afghanistan, some major rivalries are being played out. There are two regional powers in there who both have their interests in Afghanistan. The government, after the withdrawal of international and NATO forces in 2014, what will it do? On top of that, you have Washington and what Washington has said recently about the Haqqani network and their role. So all of this contributes to a sort of a geostrategic situation, which is at its best complex, and at its worst something that policymakers from New Delhi to Islamabad to Toronto to Washington are very concerned about. I'm delighted that we have such an important work as Opium Nation out, because even when I was there, when I spent time in Tajikistan, and the first thing that Tajiks will tell you, other than their love for Bollywood, of course, as well, but would be that they continue to suffer. And the opium trade across the Amur River into Tajikistan, the hashish, the heroin, has really damaged their society. So any knowledge that we have on the opium trade, and you would read all sorts of numbers. I don't know, over the last 10 years I've read so many. Opium and poppy cultivation is up, no, it's down, but Afghanistan remains one of the most important centers. I mean, earlier it used to be out in the Far East as well, but Afghanistan's role is very significant and is very important. When you have such a poppy trade or an opium trade, it also factors very heavily into development. Here at the United Nations Development Program, where I'm now Director of Communications, you perhaps will be surprised to know that Afghanistan is our top priority country, because there is a nation to rebuild. Even 10 years after, there's still a lot of work to do. We work in terms of having free and fair elections, training of the police force. In Afghanistan itself, we have almost $1 billion program a year. And this is to ensure that the nation building is as solid as can be. We try to empower the people of Afghanistan, because the people of Afghanistan do need a chance. I remember a phrase, and perhaps Fariba can tell me if the translation is correct from Dari. The world has to continue to build national institutions to shore up Afghanistan, because as a very prominent Afghan leader once told me, he said, the world should realize that we have a problem that you never get bitten from the same snake when you put your hand in the same snake bit. Perhaps it's almost there, or perhaps when you talk you can tell us that. So we must, going forward, we must do as much as we can for Afghanistan in terms of nation building and development. I myself will be back in Afghanistan, hopefully this February. I look forward to that. There's a few things that we're trying to do there. And if any one of you are interested in the kind of work that the development program does, or the United Nations does in that corner of the world, please, you know where to contact me. I'm delighted once again. I know we have to listen to Fariba. I'm very honored to be here with all of you again. And once again, to all of you, Happy New Year, congratulations, and to Fariba, I look forward to reading the book as well. Thank you again. Thank you, Shri.